tears. Time to look back through the years. Moving forward, face your fears, it's alright. Sweet surrender in this fight. Losing battle, try as you might. No easy way to learn to take a fall right.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Ryan Roe.
Thank you guys so much for coming. Wow, this is awesome. Thank you. Wow, I've had a great week this week. I don't know if you guys saw this. The other day was Siblings Day. Yeah, if you don't know, Siblings Day is a national Instagram holiday. Yeah, it's not like Mother's Day or Father's Day. You don't even have to be nice to your siblings on Siblings Day. You just need to tag them. You don't even have to like your siblings on Siblings Day. You just need to find a picture of when you used to like them. That's all. I come from a big family. I have 3 siblings. I'm the 3rd child in our family, which I think has its pros and cons. Like, a pro is that your parents are just generally more reasonable because, like, they've already had 2 tries, you know? Like, every new parent is always like, I'm not gonna let my kid watch Nickelodeon because it's violent. But then by the 3rd kid, they're like, why did we do that again? Oh yeah, we were dumb. We were rookies, you know? By now we're at least amateurs. A con of being the 3rd child is that there's almost no photographic evidence that you had a childhood. Like, there's tons of photos of the 1st kid, and there's tons of photos of the 1st and the 2nd kid together. And then by the 3rd kid, they're like, film's expensive. You know, we're smart, we'll just remember it, right? There's very few photos of me as a kid. There's one video of me. I didn't find it until I was 18 years old. It's on a VHS, and half of it is taped over by an episode of Days of Our Lives. It's the soap opera on NBC. It's very weird. It's like, here's Ryan. He's standing up. He's standing. I didn't murder your husband. I murdered your wife. Oh, whoa. Calm down, man. Take a seat. Ryan, you stay standing. You, sir, take a seat. I love my siblings. So I want to tell you guys some stories. About 6 years ago, I went and visited my older brother, Eric, who's 8 years older than me. He was living in Washington, D.C. at the time. And I visited him just because I was in high school, and I wanted to see what the life of a 26-year-old bachelor was like. And the first thing I noticed was what was in his fridge. In his fridge were only 2 things: Trader Joe's almond milk and gin. That's it. That was the whole bachelor starter kit right there. The only other food he had in his whole apartment was this fiber cereal that looked like something you would feed your chinchilla. And I asked him why he eats this, and he said, it's because it keeps me regular, which in this context means you're constantly pooping. But that's a weird phrase to put on a cereal box, so they came up with regular. And I thought, you know, that's a weird thing for a 26-year-old to be worried about, right? Like, so far all I know about Eric is he likes getting drunk and taking a healthy number 2. That's it. But, you know, that's what adults care about. And Eric was a responsible adult. I mean, the guy, like, owned silverware. Like, who owns their own silverware these days? So that's when I decided that that's what I wanted to be when I got older. I wanted to be a 26-year-old bachelor drinking fictional milks. So a year later, I decided to go to Washington, D.C. and start college there because that's what Eric did, and hoping that I would turn out like Eric. So I started school at George Washington University, and I applied there as a psychology major after watching Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. which is not the best way to choose a career path. Like, who knows? I could have been a scientist if I had just seen the movie Flubber. And, like, to me, psychology was just the study of making people cry. That's what I thought it was. And just like, if you can draw tears, that's the dream. Also, if you can interpret dreams, that's the dream. But that's all I thought it was. I thought it was just tears and dreams. And when you think you know psychology, you're always looking for someone to therapize, like someone to fix. That's why when I met my first roommate, immediately I was like, you will be my Will Hunting. His name was Jack, but for legal reasons, let's just call him Matt Damon. Matt Damon was this kid from China who had a lot of anger issues. He was less like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting and more like Matt Damon in The Great Wall. That joke did just as well as the movie did, so no shame in that. None at all. So first day of psychology class comes around, and it's a lot different than what I thought. Turns out it's a lot more science than I thought. Turns out it's less like Good Will Hunting and more like Flubber. And eventually we learned about hypnosis, which sounds cool, until you realize it's all up to the patient. And after many failed attempts, I learned that it was up to Matt Damon. So a full semester of psychology, very few tears induced, all of which were my own. And the only time I came close was once Jack came to me, he was like, Ryan, I had a really weird dream last night. And I was like, oh. So I go over and I grab my Freud's Dream to English translation book and I go on, Jack. And he says, I had this weird dream that someone stole the large knife collection from under my bed and all I could do was murder everyone around me. And I go, huh. You dreamed you had a knife collection? And he says, no. I dreamed that it was stolen. So, using my new psychology skills, I interpreted that I should change dorms. Second semester rolls around, and I switched majors to international relations. That was after seeing Robin Williams in Good Morning Vietnam. 'Cause I'm not great with patterns. And for that, we had to choose a second language to learn. And I chose Chinese for the same reason that most white guys do, to impress their female Asian friends. And I can proudly say that after studying Chinese for a semester and studying women for 23 years, I still understand neither. But that summer, another movie came out, and that's when I found my true calling, my life purpose, Jurassic World. Never has someone been so inspired by a movie that critics called a prehistoric dumpster fire. Because when I saw those fake doctors making fake dinosaurs in that fake laboratory, I knew anything is possible. That night, I changed all of my classes to biology and chemistry. By the way, my academic advisor hates me right now. And as you can imagine, out of all of the decisions I made after watching a B-rated movie, this one was by far the worst. But the worst thing, if I'm honest, to come out of Jurassic World was probably this $80 replica of Chris Pratt's leather vest. I showed this to Eric and he said, it looks like the torso version of cargo shorts. Look at all these pockets. It's like, you got room for your pocket knives and your fishing line. Oh, and your chapstick. Multiple chapsticks, actually. But, I love the fantasy of the movies, Like, my fantasy was walking down the street with more pockets than a pool table. But, looks send a message, right? Like, look at this face. My message is, I look like a 30-year-old that looks like a 15-year-old. I mean, it's not always bad. Like, I go to Applebee's, I don't get carded at the bar, and kids eat free on Wednesdays, so it's kind of a win-win there, But it's either 30 or 15, like there's no in between. I've been an extra on 2 TV shows. The first one, I played a 15-year-old in 80s Texas, and I had no problem doing that until I got there, and everyone else playing a 15-year-old was a 13-year-old. I was 22. Like, we had to take a break so they could do algebra. I just went outside and smoked some Newport Lights. I don't even smoke. I just had to remind myself I wasn't in 8th grade. The second show I was on, I played a 30-year-old in 70s Texas. By the way, what about me says classic Texas? The casting director was like, I can't tell if he's young or old, but either way, he's super white. He's in. Is anyone here from Texas? No, I'm just kidding. They would have told us by now. And that's the thing about Texans, They're Texans. Like, I'm from Pennsylvania. We don't call ourselves Pennsylvanians. We just call ourselves not from New Jersey. So, a year and a half at GW, I'm still no closer to being like Eric. I don't have anything figured out. I don't like DC that much. My bowel movements are still very irregular. And Eric was very practical. I'm more of the just do what you want kind of guy. Like if you want to major in vegan fashion literature or something, go for it. That's you. You do you. But there's one thing I'm glad I never majored in, and that is political science, which is exactly what Eric majored in. Because, to me, I think declaring a major in something like geology is like saying, hey, rocks are cool. And then declaring a major in poli-sci is like saying, but what's even cooler? Unlimited power and control. I'm like, we all know those people, right? They're incessant. They're always inviting you to stuff. It's like, no, I don't want to come to your Republican rally. I don't want to come to your Democrats debate, and I don't want to come to your Tea Party. Stop inviting me. That's why I feel like it's hard to find a politician that's relatable anymore, Just like a regular person that was trying to make a difference, Well, not regular, just regular. Like, we know Jimmy Carter was a peanut farmer, right? Lyndon Johnson was an English teacher. And Bill Clinton played the saxophone. I think that's all he did. I'm not sure. But I would be happy to see Eric become president. I think he's a great guy who's responsible and, cares more about others than he cares about himself. But if I'm honest, the real reason I want to become president is so I can finally get the funding for my dinosaur project. That's what it is. So, after my time at GW, I was out of ideas. I was out of Robin Williams movies. And I decided to take a semester off. I decided I wanted to take some time off and try to work somewhere, And my older brother, Corey, who's 4 years older than me, had just moved out to Los Angeles. So I decided to go out there with him and try to find work there and just hang out with my bro. So I get to his apartment, and I go to the fridge. In his fridge are only 2 things. A 90-piece bag of Totino's pizza rolls and gin. But you could tell it was different. Like, Eric was having gin and tonics. Corey was having gin and Totino's. And this whole LA thing was crazy to me, because like I'm from the PA suburbs, and we're just not tough like people in LA or in Philly, right? Like the toughest kid in my class was named Heath. And he was captain of the debate team. Heath and we got in a fight once. Like I came this close to raising my voice at him. I was right on the edge. You know, we weren't inner city kids. I wasn't taking the subway to school. I was driven to school by my mom in a 98 Buick LeSabre. I was as tough as the word LeSabre sounds. My parents, on the other hand, are from very small towns in Minnesota, like 300 people. Like if this whole group gathered in Great Eagle, Minnesota, we would legally be considered a church. That's how small this place is. I was just there a few months ago. I was driving around with my dad, and he goes, "Hey Ryan, that there is where I had my first kiss." And I look over, I'm like, "Dad, that's a FedEx." It's not even a Kinko's, it's just a regular FedEx. He's like, "Well, obviously back then it wasn't a FedEx. It was just a regular post office." Like, it's not much better, Dad. Isn't there anywhere else you could go? He's like, "Well, your uncle was busy in the chicken coop. So no, it wasn't." My mom, on the other hand, was this like all-star student. She got so many awards for doing amazing things. I'm definitely more of the participation trophy kind of guy. Like, my mom won a trophy for winning Miss Teen Minnesota. She had to beat out every woman in Minnesota. I got a bigger trophy for being in a mandatory school musical. Who did we beat? My mom won most likely to succeed in high school because she had the best grades. I won most likely to join the Peace Corps because I was least likely to find an actual job. My mom played basketball and won MVP of her conference. I played in a church league, and I got the award for most Christ-like. Because I don't know if you knew this, but Jesus sucked at basketball. So eventually I found work. I started as an unpaid intern at the late night show Conan on TBS. And it was awesome. I was working at Warner Brothers Studios on Stage 15, which is like a legendary stage known for groundbreaking movies like Ghostbusters 2, Ocean's 12, Batman Returns, and The Karate Kid, Part 2. And it was crazy, like there were celebrities everywhere. You know, like I was eating my Easy Mac in the same cafeteria that John Stamos eats his Oikos Greek yogurt. Like, that's crazy to me. And I get there, and the first day, another intern shows me around the office. And he shows me the kitchen. And this wasn't just any kitchen. This was a comedy writer's kitchen. Meaning, it had everything that a 9-year-old could want. And the best part was the fridge. In the fridge, there was all the name brand sodas. And on the top row, it was completely stocked with my favorite beverage of all, acai berry vitamin water. I love it so much, I Googled how to pronounce acai. Okay. And I asked the other intern, I was like, "Can we have any of this?" And he's like, "Yeah, they just take it out of your paycheck." I'm like, "What paycheck?" He's like, "Exactly." I downed 15 bottles of acai berry vitamin water in 4 days. If I had taken a breathalyzer, I would have blown a 0.2 blood acai content. That's how much acai I was consuming, okay? One day, I had one in my hand and I was walking to lunch with one of the assistants, and she stops me and she goes, "Where did you get that?" And I said, "I got it from the fridge. I thought we could take whatever we want." And she says, "You can, but not the acai berry vitamin waters." So I said, "Okay." Polished off 2 more, and then I was done. I didn't take 3. I didn't want to jeopardize this job. The next day, I was hanging out in the kitchen with the other interns, and a hush falls over the room because Conan O'Brien had just entered the kitchen. Now, if you can imagine Conan, it's like seeing a giraffe without a fence. It's like, shh, 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 don't spook him. And he comes in, he goes to the fridge, he opens it up, and his eyes immediately go to the vitamin waters. And he starts whispering to himself. He's like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. He's counting the vitamin waters as if he's thinking, did I drink 15 bottles of vitamin water in 4 days? And he grabs one and he leaves. And it was like this rush of adrenaline for me. It was like I had pulled off some elaborate heist. Like I had been robbing a bank, except I didn't know that I was robbing the bank. And as soon as the teller told me that the money was not free to take, I immediately stopped robbing the bank. But it gave me this like bold spirit inside, you know? And so the next day, my brother Corey, he has this closet full of weird vintage shirts, and I threw one on just because I could. And I walked in the office, and one of the writers sees me and he goes, "Friday shirt?" And I go, "Yep." Simultaneously agreeing to wear that shirt every Friday for 5 months. It's a lot of Fridays. And I loved it. I was the Friday shirt guy. I ruled Fridays at the Conan office. And then one morning, I wake up and I go to the closet, and it's not there. Corey says he's sold it on eBay. And I go, "Wait, you're on eBay?" And I was like panicking. I was like, how am I going to explain this to everyone? How will they even know it's Friday? Everyone's calendars will be ruined. But I was running late, so I just grabbed another one from the closet and I threw it on, and I ran to the office, and as I'm walking in the door, I realize it's Thursday. And then the same writer walks by and he goes, "Thursday shirt?" And I go, "Yep." Simultaneously agreeing to wear that shirt every Thursday. This is my Thursday shirt. I do that a lot. I make a lot of like plans to get people to like me, to think I'm cool or something. Like one time I met this guy named Mark, and Mark was cool. Mark played baseball, he wasn't ugly, and that's about it. So, he was cool. I met Mark at a church out in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And immediately I knew, I was like, if I can just be friends with him, then it's just smooth sailing from life through there. And I overheard him say to someone else, "Hey, we're having a party Friday night at 7. So from a distance, I was like, "I'll be there," and then I left. Friday night at 7, I go back to the church, because what great party doesn't start at the church? And I go inside, and there's some people there. Mark's not there yet. Classic cool guy move, showing up late. And there's some people in a back room, and so I go in, and everyone's just having a great time. Everyone's chatting. They're very encouraging to one another. They're even like vulnerable to each other. There's coffee. There's donuts. Some guy says he brought chips, and then someone stands up and goes, "Hi, my name is Angie, and I'm an alcoholic." And I go, "Wait, is Mark still coming? Is Mark an alcoholic? Does Mark think I'm an alcoholic?" And I had been hanging out with these guys for like 45 minutes. I couldn't just be like, "Well, this party blows poops." You know? So I just had to sit down and join the meeting. And eventually, the leader got a little suspicious of me, so he goes, "Ryan, why don't you tell us your story?" And I didn't want to lie to him, but I also didn't want to be like, "What's up? I'm Ryan, 17 years old, 17 years sober, perfect score." So the only thing I could think of to say was, "Well, I'm moving to college for the first time soon." And that didn't go super well, because they still think I'm an alcoholic. And an alcoholic going to college is like a kid with a peanut allergy going to a Jif factory. You're playing with fire. That's what I'm saying. But I made it through the end of the meeting, and I had a good time. But without fail, every time I go back to that church, someone will always come up to me and go, "Hey, college boy. Hey, Friday nights at 7, we'd love to have you back." I try to make these plans. My brother Corey, he is not a planner. He is much more spontaneous than I am. He's much more of a yes man, which is great. I envy that about him. I think being a yes man is great when the question is something like, so, do you want to buy a turtle and name him Denzel? Or her Denzel. It's hard to tell on turtles. But it's not so great to be a yes man when the question is something like, so, now that we've both had 6 shots, my friend's tattoo equipment is in my car. Do you want one? That's especially a bad thing to say yes to because there's no one there to explain to you the irony of getting a free tattoo that says, what you give is what you get. The anthem cry of a generation. What you give is what you get. Truer words have never been written on a drunk man's arm in Comic Sans font. The best part was, he didn't tell anyone for like a year. I've had passwords I couldn't keep secret for that long. If I ever get a tattoo, I know exactly what it's gonna be. It's gonna be the same thing, Comic Sans font on my arm, and it's just gonna say, what you hid is what you regret. I'll get there. Give me a sec. So, after my time at in LA, this is really hard thing to find. Ma'am, can you find that for me real quick? Pull it out. Thank you. All right. Anyways. So after I was done in California, I transferred to university here in Philadelphia, and one of the first things I did when I got back was I helped my younger sister, Elizabeth, who's 3 years younger than me, move into a new apartment. So I get to her old apartment, and I go to the fridge, obviously. In her fridge is only 2 things: a bottle of Don Julio tequila and gin. She was 18 years old, and this was what was in her refrigerator, which was alarming to me because, you know, tequila goes in the freezer. Everyone knows that. And, you know, like, I don't drink at all. Like, the closest I come to drinking is accidentally swallowing Listerine. That's as close as I get. Like, one time, when I turned 21, my brother Eric decided he wanted to get me my first drink, and I said, that's stupid. And he was like, why? And I said, because it's not like when I turn 25, you're gonna get me my first rental car. You know? Like, I'm 21 and we're doing shots. What are we gonna do then? Like, get in my rented Buick LaCrosse and do donuts? No. And I've tried different drinks, and I just don't like the taste of alcohol. And I'm pretty sure neither does anyone else. No one actually likes the taste of alcohol. It's like saying you like dark chocolate better than milk chocolate. It's like, we get it, you're an adult. And it's such an expensive thing for an acquired taste. Like, yeah, I could acquire a taste for gasoline. It'd probably be cheaper. Have you seen the show My Strange Addiction? There's a guy on there who eats light bulbs. He's still probably saving money. Okay. I try to justify things when I feel disappointed, you know? I try to think everything works out in the end, you know? That's how it always works. But, and it's really just because I'm disappointed. Like, one time, I do that a lot. One time, I had the opportunity to volunteer at the Winter Olympics. And I was so excited for that, you know? Because I was going to be amongst the greatest athletes in the whole world. And I got there, and they assigned me a sport, and I was amongst the greatest athletes, but in curling. If you don't know how curling works, you take a large rock, and you slide it down a long sheet of ice. And if you land it right on the bullseye, you're still not an athlete. I don't know if you guys saw this. At the last Winter Olympics, a Russian curler got caught using steroids. And we as a curling community all asked, why? Like, there's no benefits in using steroids in curling. Why they're even testing for that is beyond me. Like, using steroids in curling is just as effective as using Diet Dr. Pepper in curling. Like, there's no benefit from that whatsoever. You meet some interesting people, though, in the curling community. Like, I met this guy named Matt. Matt has a gold medal in curling, and he is an Xfinity technician in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. The same guy that has a gold medal is also the guy that shows up to your house late, plugs in the cable box, and mansplains the remote to you. That's the life of a gold medalist, okay? Can you imagine the icebreaker that guy has? It's like, so your current cable package includes Showtime, Stars Channel, and the Olympic Channel. You ever been to the Olympics? No? Oh, you're missing out. Man, it's hard though, you know, seeing so many people lose. You know, it's... oh, sorry. I totally forgot I was wearing my gold medal. What sport is it in? Oh, it's like a chess on ice kind of thing. It requires a lot of strategy and accuracy. Is it curling? Yeah, it's curling. So, when I was helping Elizabeth move into her apartment, she was feeling very anxious, you know, and I was trying to do what I always do, just try to justify things and tell her it's all going to be okay. And I act like I know the future, but I really don't. You know, no one really knows the future, even though we act like we do. Like the other day, I saw a fortune teller that on the outside, it had a sign that said, going out of business. And I thought, they probably should have seen that coming. Fortune telling, that's an incredible hoax to me. Like, if I could tell the future, the last thing I would do is set up shop in some weird cramped closet with the most flammable velvet curtains you can find and candles. And I would not be selling my knowledge for a few bucks. I'll be betting on games and beating up Marty McFly. Even horoscopes are crazy to me. Like, we wake up every morning and we think anything can happen. And then the horoscopes are like, all right, listen, there are 12 ways this can go down. There's only 12. And before I tell you which one, let me ask you, when's your birthday? But I mean, someone's still using those because they wouldn't stick around. You know, it's like Etsy. Like, someone's got to be buying those $26 acorn dolls. Or else they wouldn't stick around. Etsy, I love Etsy. You find some weird stuff on Etsy. It's great. I found this one guy sells a plastic tongue that you can put in your mouth so you can lick your cat without getting hair in your mouth. Yeah, it also comes with the restraining order from every cat. What's amazing to me is that whoever's buying those, they had multiple opportunities to back out. They hit buy now, shipping method, and place order. I wouldn't have made it past shipping method. This is me. I do that a lot too. I feel like I make plans to make a big decision, and then I back out last second. Like, when I was a kid, I had trouble bottling up my emotions, you know? So, to get rid of emotions in a safe and non-explosive way, I would write these letters to people that I felt very emotional towards, like people that had hurt me, or people that annoyed me, or people I was in love with. So I would write out all my feelings in this letter to them, and then I would feel better, and then I would just throw it away, you know? Sometimes I'd keep them. Sometimes even I was impressed by them. I was like, wow, this is really personal, but look at that penmanship. That's something. Like one time, I wrote a very eloquent love letter to the Pink Power Ranger. And it went something like, Dear Miss Pink Ranger, you are the love of my life. I think you're smart, and you're pretty, and you're really good at bow and arrow. And I think you can do way better than the Green Ranger. because his animal is a dragon sword, and that's not even a thing. And also, I think he's been flirting with the Yellow Ranger, and possibly the Blue Ranger. You guys got the real Ranger fans, they got that one. Yeah, I was really into Power Rangers as a kid. I was also really into Boy Scouts as a kid, which is just like Power Rangers, except with patches and without Power Rangers. Transitions are hard. So, yeah, I was really into Boy Scouts, which is a great organization. It's like a lot of leadership training and a lot of songs and lots of rope. They're really into rope. And when you're doing all this rope stuff, you always think someday this will come in handy. Like one day I'll just be hanging out with Barack Obama and he'll be looking sad or something and I'll be like, Barack, what's going on? And he'd be like, oh, it's nothing. And I'd be like, Barry, you can tell me anything. And he'd go, well, now that you ask, Ryan, I've just learned how to defeat ISIS. But the only thing that's stopping me is that I can't tie a double half-hitch clove knot. Then I'm the hero. So eventually, I earned the highest rank of Eagle Scout as a scout. And when you attain that, you get to have a cool ceremony for it, which is awesome. It's like high school graduation, but there's a cookie cake at the end. It's exciting. And so I had to come up with a list of people to invite to this thing, which was short, because there's not many people that you feel comfortable with reciting the Nicene Creed in your dress browns in front of them, So I come up with this list and I write out 5 invitations and I leave them in my room and I go to school. When I come back from school, my dad tells me, hey, I dropped off all your letters at the post office because we didn't have enough stamps. We only had 15 stamps. And I said, why did you need more than 15 stamps if I only wrote 5 letters? And then I remembered that along with the 5 that I had meant to send, I had also written 15 catharsis invitations. 15 letters to the girls that I liked, to the guys that I envied, all of them addressed by name and address. 15 conversations with people I had barely spoken to. They all went something like, hey, so I got your invitation to the Boy Scout thing. Totally would, but family stuff, But the best part was, besides the 5 people I meant to invite, a few of those people actually came. And besides being about a year late, Mark finally showed up to the party at the church. I have trouble with my emotions. My sister, she has no problem expressing emotions. Like, she is the least passive-aggressive person you will ever meet. She has no problem telling you that you're a horrible person to your face in a cheesecake factory on your birthday. That's the kind of person she is. She once got so angry, she punched a hole in the wall of our house like it was paper. She could have smashed her hand on a 2x4 or something. I mean, it would have been weird if she was like using a stud finder first, but that's a gamble. But Corey was a genius because he had the idea of we should frame the hole. And I don't mean we bought a picture and covered it up. I mean, we framed the hole. Like, we bought a picture frame, and we took out the glass and the back and the stock photo of the perfect family, which felt like a metaphor. And we framed the hole to commemorate it to this day. We bought 2 picture frames because we thought as soon as she sees the first one, she's probably gonna punch a second hole. We gotta be prepared for that. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. This is fantastic. Jokes are great. I love jokes. And I feel like jokes have this magic power to, create relationships with people. They create trust between people. When you laugh together, you trust each other. And you create these really great relationships. And that's what this whole show is about, It's about these weird, funny relationships that I have with my siblings. And I feel like the past 6 years of getting to know my siblings better has been some of the most transformative years of my life. So, this show is dedicated to them. My brother Eric, he was there to encourage me when I felt like I had failed at things that I genuinely believed in, And he was there to teach me that there's value in trying and failing and trying again. My brother Corey was there to challenge me to not be so wrapped up in what people think of me, and he taught me that there's nothing I have to offer anyone except myself. And my sister Elizabeth, she was there to show me that, weird things happen in life, and life is confusing and difficult. Things are hard to understand, but it's okay. And she taught me that all you can do is just keep going. Just hold on and hold on to each other. So thank you guys for listening to my stories tonight. I have one more story, and then we'll get out of here. So who here knows the show Family Feud? Yeah? Okay. Family Feud's great. It's like Jeopardy, but for people who probably couldn't spell Jeopardy. It's a great show. Every year they have dozens of families on the show. I've personally met 3 people that have been on the show, and yet I have never met anyone who has been surveyed for the show. I don't mean to start conspiracy theories, guys, but get on that, okay? So, to get to know my siblings better, I decided to tell them a little lie. I told them that I was getting them an audition for Family Feud, and I had my friend Sean pretend to be a producer at the show, because at the end of each episode of Family Feud, they play a game called Fast Money, which is great. A contestant has 20 seconds to answer 5 random questions, rapid fire. There's no time to think, there's no time to filter your answers, which you really get to know someone really well when that happens. Because a question might be like, what's something you have too much of? And they'll be like, a drinking problem. It's like, whoa, okay. Survey says 10 points, okay. So I gave Sean some weird questions to ask my siblings, and I'd like to share their answers with you right now. So first up is my sister Elizabeth. Her first question was, what's a good amount of times to cry in a week? To which her answer was, I don't even like Family Feud. Please don't include me in this. Steve Harvey's mustache weirds me out. Please don't make me be on his show. Moving on. For Corey and Eric, the first question again was, what's a good amount of times to cry in a week? To which Corey said, 0. And Eric said, 1. I'm more like Eric on this one. I usually cry about once a week, usually Tuesday nights at 9 watching This Is Us on NBC. The second question was, what's something you wouldn't ask on a first date? To which Eric said, you wouldn't ask about their weight, which makes sense, unless of course you're dating a professional wrestler or getting on a weak elevator, then you gotta ask. But Corey's answer was a little different. He said you shouldn't ask about their job. Like, are you dating the mob? Or something? The next question was, name an age where you're the most stupid. To which Corey answered, 10 years old. And Eric answered, 21 years old. Which are 2 very different kinds of stupid. Like, stupid at 10 years old is staying up till 3 a.m. on a school night. Stupid at 21 is passing out at 3 a.m. on a sidewalk. The next question was, fill in the blank. I love a good blank. To which Corey said, I love a good nap. And Eric said, I love a good beer. Basically just confirming what we learned about them in the previous question. And the final question was, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much do you trust the US government? Now, I'll preface this with saying, Corey basically believes that the US government is the Illuminati. And I don't mean he believes they were infiltrated by the Illuminati. I mean, the US government is the Illuminati. Which is why when I asked Corey how much he trusts the government, he said 3. Now, Eric, on the other hand, he's a politician. He has worked in government before. He knows the people involved. So I trust his answer much more. Which is why when I asked Eric how much he trusts the government, he said 1. Why even pay taxes anymore? Not only is the Illuminati running our government, they're not even doing a good job of it, guys. Please continue to pay your taxes. Guys, please don't let this sour you on the government. Because if there's one thing we've learned tonight, it's this. What you give is what you get. Thank you guys. Thank you guys so much. I love you guys. Thank you so much, Philadelphia. Have a great rest of your night.
First day of my life, swear I was born right in the doorway. I went out in the rain, suddenly everything changed. They're spreading blankets on the beach. Yours is the first face that I saw. I think I was blind before I met you. And I don't know where I am, I don't know where I've been, but I know where I want to go. And so I thought I'd let you know. Yeah, these things take forever, I especially am slow. But I realized that I need you, and I wondered if I could come home.